That's a good
Zoom.
idea.
There we go. And now here they come. Okay. They're coming in. There we go. Hey, Beth.
Hey, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm involved in all kinds of things.
Oh, yeah. Getting yourself in some kind of trouble, right?
Yep.
Well, good. Well, thanks for joining us today. And we've got others joining as well. Let's see here. All right. Cool. We're going to give this a few minutes for everybody to get joined. Let me see here about turning off the waiting room. Oh, gotta let Amy in. Disable it. Okay. All right. Hey, Leon, Amy, welcome everybody. Carolyn, Daryl. Let's throw, I'd love to know where everybody's coming in from. So why don't you throw in the chat where you're calling in from? Dialing in from? I don't know what we call it. Okay, cool. Well, we got more coming. Meetings, participants. Turn off waiting. Looking to turn off the waiting room. Well, I'm just going to have to keep letting people in. All right. Welcome. So we're going to give it a few minutes before we get started. We've got Jonathan here with us. Thank you, Jonathan, for joining us. And today we're going to be talking
Like you're
about
gonna show that on
agentic
the screen. Just leave
AI.
it like that for a moment.
Go ahead and let's keep ourselves on mute as we're joining here. Let me change my view.
Yeah, I'll bring that up. I can help you manage that too, Clay.
If you don't mind,
I don't mind, not at all.
thank you. Scholar and a gentleman. How do I turn off
Neither
the
one of
waiting
those.
room, Jonathan? Do you know off the top of your head?
I don't know. That's a
All
good question.
right.
I can watch and just admit people though. That's not a problem.
Okay. Well, I asked our good friend Perplexity. It gave me directions. I'm having trouble following them, so we'll do it the old-fashioned way.
Sounds like a plan.
All right. Welcome, Sarah. Okay, cool. Well, welcome everybody. Again, thanks for joining us. So it really feels like agentic AI is having a bit of a moment, but I think it's not temporary. I think what we're seeing is what I've been kind of saying or feeling is that it's agentic AI is delivering on the promise of AI. And what I mean by that is like when I think about, some of the shows that I used to watch and the things that I thought would be in the future, I think of Jarvis with Iron Man and the computer on the Starship Enterprise for those old nerds like me where the hero of the story would ask for something and an entity would make that happen, and that's kind of what we're looking at with agentic AI. So today, we want to give you an introduction to agentic AI and its uses in real estate. Jonathan is going to start us off with an introduction to agentic AI. What is it? Where is it? He has done a number of great classes on this for his group, and he's bringing this to us. Then we'll transition back to me to talk about how we can use these skills in our real estate profession. So, Jonathan, if you want to take it from here, I'll take over watching the chat in the waiting room while you do your thing.
Sounds like a plan. We'll go ahead and dive into that right now. So let me share my screen here, Clay. I'm going to take over from you if you don't
Yes. Oh,
mind.
yeah. Of course. Please. Let's see here.
There we go. Let's make sure that comes up. There we go. It looks like we're all set.
Awesome.
So I'm going to talk to you about some different agents. And the reason I'm going to just share my screen is I'm going to show you a couple of different agents. So many of you have probably heard about OpenClaw. OpenClaw is what I've got running right here. And you go, Jonathan, that doesn't look like OpenClaw. That looks like Discord. What is it? Well, OpenClaw is an agent that I have running on a separate computer, actually a server in another state at this point in a data center. And I communicate with OpenClaw just like I would with a computer. In fact, or a team member. In fact, you'll notice here that I even named it. I named my OpenClaw James. That way I can refer to him and do it. I know it sounds really weird, but it actually makes sense. And I thought I'd solve with something really easy. I just went to OpenClaw and said, "Hey, James, you know, I asked it, I said, I'm teaching a group of amazing real estate professionals about AI agents. Can you give me an overview of AI agents and how they can best be used by real estate professionals? Keep it simple." And so James thought for a moment and said, "Yep, I can do that." And actually created a file for me, which it didn't show me. By the way, I'm going to show you OpenClaw today. I do not recommend it. It's really powerful and it's incredibly technical. If you're the sort that likes to bring a toolbox with you when you go to take the grocery store, when you take your car, and you want to be repairing things while you're driving it down the road, then OpenClaw is perfect. If you're not that person, and I'm not, by the way, then OpenClaw is a really cool toy and not one I recommend you play with. It's very complicated. It does have a lot of power. Don't get me wrong. It's neat, but it is incredibly complicated and it's not very user friendly. For example, this is a great idea. It went ahead and created a real estate AI agents overview. That's really cool, except it didn't give it to me. It saved it, which is what it was supposed to do, but I didn't want it to save it. I wanted to see the file. Well, the only way for me to get this file, I'll show you real quick. Nobody wants to learn, but I'm going to show you the worst before I show you the best. I literally have to take an FTP application that I have, which stands for File Transfer Protocol. I need to do something very technical and I need to connect to it. Hang on. Clay, by the way, has not even seen me do this before. So I have to connect to it via an old, and this isn't old, but via file transfer protocol. Then I've got to navigate through to where I need to go because it doesn't go to the right directory. And let's see, we're going to go to my home directory, I think is the one I remember. I have to remember where to go. Yep, AI team member one, that's James. And then under OpenClaw, this looks like, experience, I can get that. And then underneath this, I need to, can't remember where it is, so let's go find out. We'll go back to OpenClaw. Yes, I'm showing you this on purpose. So workspace content. Okay, there we go. Let's see. So workspace, there's workspace and content. And it's supposed to be there, but I don't see it there. I see lots and lots of folders, agentic AI costs. I see stuff. I don't see. So this, by the way, is why OpenClaw is a pain. One of the many reasons OpenClaw is a pain in the butt. So it tells me it's there under this real estate, but notice I can't see it anywhere. This, by the way, reason I'm showing you, this is a typical user experience with OpenClaw. It's just not user friendly. If you're an IT person, you probably love it. If you're not, and I'm not, you probably don't. So we'll stop with that because it's not that much fun to use. Let's talk about some of the other agents that are really easy to use. So my favorite agent I'm going to show you is actually in Claude. You guys may have heard of Claude before. It's a competitor to OpenAI. You have to use the desktop app, which they have, works on Mac and mobile. And they have this amazing thing called Claude Cowork. Well, I love Claude Cowork because it is agentic and it allows me to do all kinds of different things. I can schedule new tasks. I can have it do all kinds of different work for me, giving it what I want to do. Let me give you an example of one that I thought worked really well yesterday. So I was doing a training. Clay happened to be part of it. And we had an offer that was created and then a dossier that was information on a company. And we wanted to have a big workflow done. We wanted to take that offer and we wanted to create an overview of a marketing campaign. Then we wanted to create a landing page for that marketing campaign. Then we wanted to create an email campaign to promote our offer, a social media campaign to promote our offer, video scripts to promote our offer, and create images. Normally, if we're doing that via Chat GPT or anything else, we're going to do each one of those is going to be one step at a time, maybe multiple steps. With an agent, I was literally able to come in and give it a task, give it what are called skills. You can see I gave it a bunch of skills right here, and literally say go. And it did all of this work, lots and lots of work. By the way, notice it actually, unlike OpenClaw, it gave me the file. So here's my campaign package. I can just open it up and look at that. That's so much easier. It did all of this work for me and it took about 20 minutes. But here's the beautiful thing. While it created that campaign and while it created the landing page and while it created everything else, I was able to go do something different and I didn't have to do anything. And that was really cool. On a daily basis, I use this. I'm a big fan of content marketing, and so I use it every day to go out and do research based upon my industry. You guys would do it on your specific niche and your locale, and it runs it. And then when it's done, it actually not only does that, but it gives me blog posts, it gives me social media posts, it gives me video scripts. So when I wake up in the morning, I can come in here and I can go, well, let's see what we did yesterday. And we'll take a look here at this report. And I'll go open up, and here happens to be 25 social media posts. Yes, I'm scrolling through all this on purpose that it created for me, and this happens every morning. I don't have to do a thing. I just set it up once. It's like having a personal assistant that I literally just assigned this task to and said, every morning, I see Amy on the screen, so I'll pick on Amy for a minute. Every morning, Amy, I want you to go out and I want you to research our industry, the latest trending topics, what's happening, what's of interest. I want you to then filter that through the context of the audience that we serve and through who I am as Jonathan to come up with relevant stuff. Then I want you to create some talking points off that. Then I want you to write 25 social media posts based on that. I want you to write a blog post based on each talking point. I want you to write a video script on each talking point. I can tell you, I've got a great team, but if I handed that to a member on my team, that would be an entire day's worth of work, and it'd still probably not be done. Literally, my agent inside of Cowork, which you can start for as little as $20 a month, does this for me every morning. And I get my threads that I just showed you here. So 25 different posts. I get my little report and I get blog posts that are written. See if it may not want to load here for me. I can still go ahead and load it. All of this is done for me every day without me having to do a single thing other than review it and decide if I want to post it. And it gets done, like I said, every single day for me. Another thing that I use an agent for is probably a lot like you. I have different note takers that I use in different meetings, or I have a note taker, I should say, I use in meetings. And at the end of the day, I've forgotten what I told Amy I was going to do. I've forgotten what I told Jonathan I was going to do. Forgotten what I told Kirk I was going to do because I've been in meetings all day long. Probably a lot like you. Well, this goes in, the meeting tool I use is called Granola, and it literally connects to Granola and runs a report for me and prints up exactly what happened. So take a quick look at this. Here's my summary for the day, the 6 meetings I had, my to-do list based upon what came up with that, other things that I need to be aware of this week. Deshni, who's my assistant, here's the things that I said or that I wanted Deshni to do. Here's other things I wanted her to do this week. And then here's stuff that I'm waiting on from people that I met with. And then here's quick notes. So if Deshni, who wasn't on my meetings, or if I can't remember what a meeting was about, I can come back real quick and I can look, for example, at let's look at my intro call with Brent. So Brent's Russell Brunson's 20-year business partner, currently leading in business development and partnerships on Russell Brunson's IP and coaching side, separate from ClickFunnels, a software business, connected through a mutual contact, Mike. Russell's building a new vertical around teaching AI applications in business, has acquired Dan Kennedy's library, portfolios of Joe Vitale's content, and more. And he's constructing a library event near Idaho. Funnel Hacking Live is happening again in September at the Fontainebleau Theater in Las Vegas. And Brent plans to talk to Russell about whether I should fly out there. That's pretty cool. I'm happy to have that reminder. By the way, true story. That all happened yesterday. If you know Russell Brunson, I'm pretty geeked about that because he's like one of my big guys I'd really like to connect with. So I didn't have to remember to send a thank you or anything else because, well, this morning, Deshni gets in an hour before I do. She actually went through all this and She had made sure that I sent my email to thank Brent for his call yesterday, that she puts it in the calendar and she'll remind me in 2 weeks, which is the email I sent to Brent about when I'd follow up if I haven't heard from him and all that. She'll now help me manage all that. My agent could also help me manage that if I wanted to. But all of this happens every night automatically. I don't have to go in and do this. I don't have to send Deshni stuff. Deshni doesn't have to go in and do it. It just happens automatically so we don't forget stuff. So Claude Cowork, it's a great agent. It starts at $20 a month. Another agent that's really great that I love using and is also good if I can find the right tab here. Here we go. Is Perplexity Pro. Many of you may have heard of Perplexity. It's an AI search engine, and they have recently added for as little as $20 a month their computer. And that is their agent, does all the same type of stuff that I just shared with you on Claude. A couple differences, but the biggest difference is Claude Cowork last month I spent about $30 on. Last month, in 6 days, I spent over $700 on Perplexity doing the same basic work. It's really powerful. Clay can tell you it's really cool. It's also really expensive. So, not one that I generally recommend, even though it is really cool. And then the other one I show you, which I use quite a bit, is called Manus. Manus, it was originally a Chinese company, but has been bought by Meta and does a great job. And hang on a minute, let me mute somebody. There we go. And that is an incredible tool that lets me do all kinds of things, both as an agent or as a chat tool. But one of the things that I use Meta or Manus for, I'm sorry, it's owned by Meta. One of the things that I use it for regularly is to help me do design. So a good example would be the other day, actually yesterday in class, we put together a landing page. Let me see if I can find it here really quickly. We did a landing page in the class for one of the people that was in there. And here it is right here. So I mentioned how we had the agent yesterday write our campaign and write a landing page copy and everything else. In addition to that, AI, by the way, created this. Imagine you need a landing page to show somebody. This ain't bad, folks. By the way, it did this for $4. I used to run a web design business. I would have charged you at least 2 grand to do this easily. Manus did it. I did give it, these are pictures. This happens to be Carrie. She gave me 3 pictures on the Zoom call we were on. It incorporated those. And I gave it her logo, I gave it the colors, and then we gave it the landing page copy that I told you that we had AI create as part of that yesterday. And look at this beautiful page that we have set up. Really great, great marketing and everything else, all for $4. So Manus is great for that type of use. And so the three main tools that we've got that we're going to talk about and go over are: one, we've got Claude Cowork; two, we've got Manus; three, we've got Perplexity Computer; and four, we've got OpenClaw. Again, as a reminder, I don't recommend anybody get into OpenClaw because it is really a pain. There's a lot to use. It becomes very difficult. And it's very much like driving to the grocery store, but bringing your wrenches and screwdrivers with you and working on the car while you're driving down the road. It's just a complicated process. And candidly, I can't do anything in there that I can't do elsewhere for a lot easier. So that's why we do that. You'll notice, by the way, that I left one company off. I've not mentioned the agents from ChatGPT or OpenAI. And you may be going, Jonathan, why are you not talking about those? Well, it's really simple. It's because they stink. ChatGPT does have an agent. It doesn't do anywhere near as much work as what's available in Claude Cowork or Perplexity or Manus. And I also left off one from Google. Now, Google does have an agent that they just released, but again, it's fairly complicated. It's not simple to use. And so I don't recommend people get there. I think Google's going to come out with something very similar to Claude Cowork, very easy to use, but it's not there yet. So my recommendation, if you're thinking about it, start with Claude or Manus. They're both quite affordable. They're very powerful. And then before I turn over to Clay, I want to give you one last bit about why an agent versus chat. What's the difference? ChatGPT is a great, or any chat tool is great and it's powerful, but you've really got to babysit it every step of the way. In other words, I can't give it big workflows. It's like having a team member that you can tell how to do one or two things at a time, but no more than that because that team member forgets if it goes any further than one or two things. An agent, on the other hand, is like having the most intelligent team member you've ever had, the most competent, capable team member you've ever had, that you could give a 47-page workflow to, and they'll follow it step by step by step every single time. And better than that, that they only need to be trained once. You do have to train them once, but once you've trained them, they'll do it. And now you can say, mine's James. James, I want you to do this every day at 3 o'clock. And guess what? Like clockwork, James will do it every single day at 3 o'clock. You can have it look at data, you can have it run reports, you can have it write emails for you, whatever is appropriate. And again, because it can do much broader workflows, imagine, let's just say that you're a listing agent and you need to do research on comps, you need to do research on areas, you need to write up a listing package that is, very specific, not your normal boring stuff, but something really good. You need suggestions for photos, you need social media posts to announce the new listing, you need some emails that you can send out to your email list about the new listing, and you're normally going, well, I normally wouldn't do all that, Jonathan, because it takes too long. Now that I've got AI, I could do that, but it's still going to take me a couple hours because I have to babysit and do everything one at a time. Or with an agent, we can literally develop that workflow one time, train our agent on what to do. And the next time you get a new listing, Amy, you could literally type in the address and say go. And you could come back an hour later and everything could be done for you. Your reports, your social media, your research, your comps, everything could be done for you. That's the difference between a chat tool and an agent. And Clay's going to spend some time actually sharing some even more detail about specific ways that you can use it, whether you're an LO or you're an agent or you're an investor or anything else in the real estate field, some very specific ways. So Clay, why don't we get my fat, ugly face off here and bring you on? Why don't you talk to us a little bit about some of the things you're going to share about specific uses for agents?
You got it. We'll get your face off and my fat. We'll fight over who the fat ugly face is. But with that said, yes, let's do this. All right, who's excited? I'm excited. So what I want to do in the next 20-ish minutes, and we will have time for questions, and both Jonathan and I have time beyond the scheduled time. So
Yep.
if you have questions, you obviously throw them in the chat, but we are going to do some question and answer. So let me share my screen real quick while I jump in. All right. So what we're going to talk about, like I said, for the approximate next 20 minutes is going to be, let me get this out of the way, talking about understanding AI agents. So, we're going to talk about the basic concept, which Jonathan has covered in great detail, kind of identify what the problem we're trying to solve is.
Did you see her or did she? Yeah, I did.
And then I'm going to do a live demo of the tools that I've actually built. So my goal is that you leave here feeling confident enough to build your own skills and agents. But I also created some that you can implement today, and I'm going to demo that for you. And then I'm going to go over the resources that we're providing to you as a part of this training. So I thought a good analogy to help you understand what it's like to bring on board an agent is to think about the steps you take to onboard a new employee. If you're bringing on a new employee, you're probably going to start with a job description. You'll likely, hopefully, give them some process documents to follow. Then you're going to do some training with the employee where you show them how to do the job and what a good job looks like. Then you're going to let the employee do the job some, and you're going to give that employee feedback to improve their output. And then once the employee's ready to work on their own, you don't leave them on an island. You stay in touch with them, monitoring what they're doing on an ongoing basis. Well, working with an AI agent is very similar. Your agent's going to work better if you can start with defining a role, identifying, I went the wrong direction. There we go. So you're going to do it in a similar manner. You're going to go start with the job description. What does that look like? What are we trying to accomplish? What should you do? What shouldn't you do? Then you're going to add in knowledge base information with, process documents potentially. Then you're going to work with the agent, teaching it and training it how to do its job. Then you're going to observe as it continues, much like you would with an employee. So that's what we're going to look at, in the next 20 minutes. So that's exactly how you would go about onboarding your agent. It's really, really straightforward and simple. So if anything's making it seem like it's not that way, it is. And you'll see as we continue. What I want to do now is I want to demonstrate for you one of the skills, one of the agents that I built for you guys. But I want to tell you a bit of a story slash confession. Okay.
And they're giving us a couple agents too.
I am, I've been in real estate for a long time. I used to be a foreclosure listing agent. I actually still am. But back in the day, that was the hot commodity. I would get a listing, I would post it for sale. I'd get dozens of leads from buyers wanting to know more about the property. That's dozens of people raising their hands saying, I'm interested in real estate. Sell me some real estate. Do you want to know how much money I made on those leads? Zero, because I'm terrible at lead follow up. So I'm curious, is it just, I see you shaking your head at me, Beth. I'm curious, is it just me or is anybody else ready to say, maybe I could do follow up a little better? Can we put a one in the chat if our follow up could potentially use a little? Okay. So I appreciate it. I'm sure I'm actually not looking at the chat, but I know that there are some of us in there confessing our sins. Okay. Yes. Whoa, Jonathan, a zero. We'll work on that, bro. All right. I think it is a universal truth. We could all be a little better at lead follow up. So why is that? Let's look at what manual lead follow up looks like, right? So it starts with lead intake, but we're busy. Maybe we don't do a great job there. Then if we're really on our game, we're going to score the leads to know who's the hot lead, the cold lead, okay, who do I need to follow up with? Then we're going to jump in and draft an initial outreach, maybe a text or an email. But this is all if we do it, if we remember, if we have time, if we're not too busy, get them into our CRM. And now don't even get me started about the idea that I know you're not following up on old leads, but there's money there. I mean, I know we've probably all heard the saying, the fortune's in the follow up, which is the irony of why lead follow up is so challenging for us. Now, this is where, and hopefully you're seeing where I'm going with this. This is a manual lead follow-up system, unreliable, may or may not happen, not the same every time, all kinds of problems with it. What this looks like when you train an agent to do it for you, the lead intake happens automatically without your participation. The lead scoring is instantaneous. The initial outreach is drafted. You can create not just a CRM follow-up, like CRM follow-ups have been around forever. What's new is you can create personalized follow-ups for each lead. Like I personally, a big believer that if your leads are more personalized, they're going to convert more frequently. And then to me, what may be the best thing of all is you would have an ongoing revitalization of these stale leads. So the fortune being in the follow-up, this is what will help us with that. So where we're at now is I want to review really quickly that our goal now is to go from a manual process that may or may not happen, that's a series of sticky notes, and I hope I remember, to a system that scores leads, writes the first response, builds a follow-up plan, and tells me when to pick up the phone. That's what I'm going to show you live right now. So let me get out of my presentation here and I'll bring up Claude. And I am in Cowork. Now, before I do that, I need to show you what I'm going. So In theory, what we're demoing here is that I just had an open house. And that at my open house, I had four attendees show up and they filled out my open house sign-in sheet. I was doing an open house at 123 Happy Meadows Lane. It's a beautiful property. You should come see it sometime. But this is what I have right now as inputs, right? I have these four leads. My old system, that spreadsheet would sit on my desk to be entered at some point into a CRM. Then things would be piled on top of it to be forgotten about forever. Nothing would ever happen. We're going to change that right now. So I've already built these skills into my agent. And again, don't panic. That's going to be what we look at next. I want to show you what we're building first. So I can come in and say, can you run the lead follow-up skills on my open house sign-in sheet? And now I'm going to give it my open house sign-up sheet and say, let's go. Now this is really fun, okay? Once you've done this a few times, you'll like stop doing what I'm about to do with you. But I have to admit, it's really fun watching your agent think and work as you go. So you can see right now it says it's reading the sign-in sheet. I've got all four leads from the sign-in sheet. Let me run through the full pipeline now. Intake, scoring, initial responses, and nurture sequences for each one. And now over to the right, it's building, you can see over here it's progress through through this tasks or these tasks. The context it's using is what I've uploaded, that open house sign-in sheet. And now you can see over here that it's loading the skills. And again, I'm going to show you these, but these are each individual skills that I've trained my agent to use to complete this task. What we'll do once, and again, to be really, really clear, I'm giving you these specific skills so that you can use them immediately with the goal of you getting comfortable making your own, because it really couldn't be easier. One thing I would tell you that I think people take for granted, myself included, is when I say easier, that does not mean easy. Easier is a relative term. It is easy, but it takes a little bit of work. A really good agent if you want a really good agent, you should take some time on the design, but also on the back end, meaning have it produce results over and over again, and then tell it what it did right and what it did wrong, and it'll start honing in and getting better and better. All right, so now he says he has everything he needs, that he's going to process all four leads through the complete pipeline. And this one usually takes a couple of minutes, but it'll come up. What you can see, and I hope what you're seeing here is, see, it says up here, it's scoring the four leads. That's where it's at right now. Now, next, it's going to draft the initial responses. Next, it's going to build a nurture sequence. And I mean, I can tell you from managing employees for 20 years, there's not many that follow processes this uh, directly every single time. That to me is the beauty of AI and automation. So as it runs, let's see here, and it's still going because it's doing such a good job. That, as Jonathan indicated, you can set this up to where it's totally automatic. Like, for example, I have a couple of tasks that I run every single morning, just like Jonathan does. One of mine scrapes looks in my email to determine, did I receive any new contracts last night? Then it extracts the information from the contracts and puts those into a Google Sheet that we use to track that we get all our contracts entered into our title system. I have another one that runs similar to Jonathan to create content. And what it does is I have a Notion board where I have all my content living. And it's a collaborative effort where it'll go out there and find ideas for content. and it puts them into the idea section of my board. I look at it and I approve what I like and I don't approve what I don't like. And then it runs back through and creates the content for me. So, what you want to think about when you're thinking, what can I turn into an agent or a skill? Anything you do more than twice, make that a skill and or an agent. And I'm making so an agent to me, I guess to go a little higher level, skills are the building blocks of your agents. So, for example, for our lead follow-up agent, it has a skill for scoring leads. It has a skill for intake, lead intake. It has a skill for building nurture sequences, for making your initial response, for score. Oh, I already said scoring the leads, lead intake, and it has an overall what it calls a orchestrator. So when you build a set of skills that you want your agent to run concurrently, then you'll use an orchestrator so that that tells it that kind of just as it sounds and it implies what order in which these things should be done. So I've built this lead follow-up system for our four primary disciplines, meaning realtors, lenders, title agents, and property managers. And that's in your resource document. The links to each of those is, I'm going to show that to you. Then the other thing that I'm sharing or that I built was for our agents is a listing launch skill set or agent. And that is where you can give it a property address and it'll help you do property research. Then it'll help you create your listing description. It'll extract the primary MLS fields. That used to drive me crazy trying to find all the fields to sign in. Build your social media, and then it will create a campaign or like for me, I always like to contact my sellers after a week, after 2 weeks, and then at 3 weeks, we start talking about if we need to make any changes. So it makes that whole sequence for me. Now, I'm going to check in here with Cowork to make sure that it's not stuck. No, it says it's okay. It says it's right. Well, let me just check in. Uh, how's it going? I see in the left-hand corner it's decided it's downloading an update. So let's see what we get back here. And if we're still waiting, what we can do is maybe if there are any questions in the chat, we can address those while this is getting caught up to where we are. Jonathan, anything in the chat? Anybody got their hands up that we can answer questions for?
Sorry about that. I had to find the unmute button.
I'm glad it's not just me. I'm glad to see that
No, it's
happens
not
to a
just
pro
you.
like you.
Oh yeah, all the time. Is it enough to have the pro plan on Claude or for this kind of agent? I'd love your opinion on it. I mean, let me tell you guys about March and April for me. So in March, is when I really started using Claude Cowork. I spent, I believe the total was $26.81 in March on Claude to do the things that I did on Claude. Most of it was agentic. I basically ran it on I have a team plan and a personal plan. I ran it on my personal plan and I spent $26.81. Part of the reason I was able to do that is I was learning how to use it, so I wasn't using it as much as I am today. And Claude had some promos going in March that gave us some free usage. I can look at the moment. Clay, you can come in and give me your thoughts.
Yeah.
It's going to cost me more than that this month, but that's because I'm using it a boatload more than I did in March. And you're probably going to find that to be the same. My current usage for the month, I am at 10%. Let me see here if I'm no, I'm at 6%. I'm sorry. And I reset in 3 weeks. So I'm at 6% for what is that, 1 week? So I'll be at 24%. That means I'm going to spend this month about just under $100 to do things. And Clay can tell you I'm using it a ton. So
So
pretty affordable in the big picture. You absolutely can start for 20 in my mind. What do you think, Clay?
yeah, I was gonna say that like so I'm on the max plan and
As am I now. Yeah.
I was gonna say I'm jealous of you getting as much out of it at 20, but what I would tell you that I think Jonathan would echo one of the things we love about Claude is they had the foresight to say, instead of just saying you're out of usage, you're out of luck, it says you're out of usage, would you like to buy more? So
Love
what
it.
I would say
Yes.
to that is start at 20 and then see how frequently you're having to buy more because it'll sell you $5 worth of usage. And then you can sort of work your way up. But one thing I would tell you, okay, is once you see everything, and by the way, Jonathan and I don't work for Claude. We don't get paid anything by Claude. We don't have an affiliate link for
I
Claude.
I wish they had an affiliate program. Yeah.
Exactly. But we would both tell you that even if you go on to their highest plan of $200 a month, which maybe they have higher, but in our circle, it seems like that's kind of the high end, that's $2,400 a year. How many hours do you have to save to make back $2,400? You know, and what you'll see is it's not it's to me it's not just the time you save, which is a bunch, because what you're doing is you're taking that admin work that you hate and offloading it to a thing that can do it. But it's also doing the things you know you should be doing, but you aren't. So there's just this huge unlock that I think it's very, very easy to make the math work. But the direct answer to your question is start at 20, just use it, and then see how frequently you're having to purchase more usage. So with that, our lead follow-up system ran. And so it's going to start here with a quick summary. Hopefully y'all can see that. And it's telling us that Jennifer and Tom are a hot lead that we should call right now. They want the specific property, they're pre-approved, and they need to move within 30 days due to their Tampa relocation. Every hour matters here, so it's motivating you. The key question to ask, do they have a home in Tampa to sell first? So that's super helpful. Sally, she's warm. Reach out today via email and text. She's pre-approved with a 4-month timeline looking for a 4-3 for her family. The one critical missing piece is price range. Ask her first. Now, Marcus is warm. Reach out today, but with a different energy. First time buyer, 6 months out, working on pre approval, play the long game here. Be his guide, not his closer. That's honestly, I know that like for a lot of us experienced agents would be like, yeah, of course. But you know, for you or for newer agents on your team, I think that kind of feedback's helpful. And by the way, this is only scratching the surface. I'm going to show you the full output in a second. And then David Park, cold. But it does help. It says he already has an existing agent. So don't waste your time, basically. But now let's look at the full package. And I'm going to move this over so we can see it a little better. And I'm going to scroll up to the top of this. Look at this package it built for us, okay? All right, so it's got our lead priority summary at the top. It's giving us our lead profile with all of their information, their phone and email, which was, by the way, this isn't like some amazing AI trick. It was on the PDF. But then it's helping us with the interest type. So it's breaking everything down for us for each of the leads so that, you know, show us how it scored them. Gives us an idea of what information we need to find from them. More detail on the scoring. But then here's where the rubber's really meeting the road. So now it's like not just telling us let's follow up, it's giving us our follow up to send to them immediately. And because we're using our Claude, it's going to be in our voice, our style, so it's going to sound more like us. And it's got their email that we should send them, our email that we should send them along with the text. If we get their voicemail, here's a script. And then here's notes for us saying, and this is helpful, right? Because, and you guys know this, especially if you have agents on your team that you're training, they're going to want to, they say, oh, I sent an email. Claude's like, no, bro, call first. This lead's too hot for an email. Next, it's giving us the nurture sequence for our CRM. And again, like I indicated, so really here's a good way to look at this. I hadn't thought about this, but it's really helpful the way that because Claude made that sign-in sheet for me. It structured them. These are very different contact types, meaning like we've got one that's super hot and that wants to buy in 30 days and one that's 6 months out. So we have very different nurture sequences for each of them. So now we have Sally, and it's doing the same thing, giving us her lead score, and like it gives us a breakdown. So if you want to dig in further to understand the scoring between your different leads, giving you your initial response drafts, and then it's a warm nurture sequence. So a different nurture sequence than what was provided for our hot lead. And then Marcus Rivera, who's 6 months out, I know I'm scrolling a little faster now. I want to get down to his nurture sequence. So his nurture sequence goes out 90 days at least. And then finally, David Park has an agent, said maybe a courtesy follow up, but yeah, one friendly text only, offer neighborhood info, do not push. And that reminds me, I do want to mention one important disclosure slash caveat, and that is you're responsible for what goes into your AI and you're responsible for what comes out of your AI. And what I mean by that is you have to be mindful, particularly given whatever sort of platform you're working on, what information you're putting in. You may be restricted by, your own organization's um, processes or policies. You may be restricted by license information, whatever laws. That's up to you. And the same thing for it coming out. You're responsible for fair housing compliance. Now, AI can help, but you always want to be a trust but verify kind of person when you approach this stuff. So hopefully you can see how powerful this is, that I went from I don't even really follow up at all to now I have a robust scoring, nurturing. It even has and you won't see it here, but it has a skill for when leads have, gotten stale to then re-engage those leads. So let me first of all bring back up our, let's see, that was our last slide deck there. So what we're going to look at now, I've walked through the output. I'm going to pause here because the next thing that I'm going to do is I want to go over the resources that I'm going to share with you. And actually, why don't I show that to you so you can get an idea of what it looks like in practice? Let me bring up. So this is the resource document. And on the second tab here, marked resources and skill files, you're going to find a number of links. And you're welcome to take all of them or just the ones that are relevant to you. But what I just showed you was the lead follow-up skills. And I definitely went a little overboard in creating resources for you all. I hope you don't mind, but I created a bunch. Each one of these skill files has a workbook. This disclosure was what I had just talked about, but then you get into it and it says, it gives you everything you need to know about building and implementing your your lead follow-up agent. It's got some fill in the blanks for you to help you with some of your process information. You don't have to use this, but I think you'll find it very helpful. But then what you'll find is I have on each of these tabs, this is the exact skill file that you need to add these to your either Claude. That another nice thing about the skills, they're totally portable from one agent to the next. A skill that works on Claude is a skill that'll work on Manus, is a skill that'll work on Perplexity. And what you would do is download this. Where's my, oh, I got to go file, download, and you download it as a markdown file, which is what a skill file works off of. All of this is in this workbook. But I took it one step further. I built you a Google notebook with all of this information in it. And that is, again, in your replay and resource at the very top up here is Notebook LM Workshop Resource Guide. I built some studio assets for you, infographic, slide deck, audio overview. But I also want to point out, and I'm going to put the replay and the transcript and everything in here. So if you have any questions about anything we've discussed as a part of the training, you'll be able to come into the chat with this notebook, ask questions about how do I add a skill to Cowork, or how do I do this, or how do I do that? So these resources are all available to you. With that said, let's open it up for questions. Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. So if you have a question, please feel free to raise your hand. Would love to interact with you guys live here. Certainly, I understand that this is a lot and it feels like a lot. It is what really will deliver AI for you, really deliver that process. So, yeah, please definitely would love it if we could get some questions from the audience here. Like, or
Yeah,
Jonathan, if you
absolutely.
have any thoughts, please.
No, first of all, great job, Clay. I mean, amazing information. I love how you
Oh,
brought it
thanks.
in direct with some of those examples. I think are really relevant. You guys know why I partnered with Clay on this is that Clay has such amazing real estate knowledge that I don't have. And obviously, as you can see, he's learning really quick too. I mean, the level of stuff you brought, seriously, really good, man. I'm super impressed.
No, I
One of the
appreciate
questions
it.
that came up had nothing to do with agents, but people loved your presentation. I'm guessing you did that in Notebook LM. Is that right, or did you use something else?
So I built that in Gemini. I told it,
Nice.
so I told it I wanted some infographic style to, to show, oh, whoops. But then I put it together in Canva. I did do a slide deck in Notebook LM for our resource document here. I'd really love y'all's feedback. When you've had an opportunity to play around with the notebook, this is a new sort of way to deliver resources that I haven't messed with before. Anybody who's been kind of connected to me for any brief amount of time knows I freaking love Notebook LM. It's such a cool tool. So, yeah. So anyway, so I did do a slide deck in here. I love the slide decks in Notebook. I just needed a little more control for what I was trying to create there. Euler asked, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, I hope I am, does Claude host the landing pages you create and for how long? And my understanding is no, Manus will host agents or sites for landing pages, but I don't know that Claude does. Jonathan, do you know the answer to that?
I don't know. That's a good question.
So yeah, I'm pretty sure. Like, so what I've done, I've built pages with Claude, but then I go and I put them on my Go high level by using the HTML, which is so easy.
Yeah.
Like one of the things that I've loved about working with AI is that things that I used to think were so mind-blowing and hard and whatever, like an HTML website, like I can spin something up in a heartbeat. Same thing with Google Apps Script. I don't know if anybody messes around with that, but I've known about that for years, but I've just been totally unable to create app scripts. AI writes them for me and then troubleshoots them with me and perfects them, and it's incredible. Um, hey, Skeeter, how's it going? You can go ahead and unmute. What's your question?
Hey, I'm doing good. Thanks a lot, Clay. I was on your other training with Notebook LM for realtors, and so
Awesome.
this is really good stuff. My wife and I just did a 4-day training for a real estate agency. They have about 8 agents, and it went really well. And so, what would if I were to bring something like this to them? Because I custom built some GPTs for them,
Sure.
and so what would you recommend charging for something like this?
Whatever they'll pay. I don't know.
That's I know that's the $1 million question, isn't it?
I'm not sure. Jonathan, what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, it is a whatever they're paid to a certain extent. Skeeter, when you said you did the 4-day training, was it on agents or what type of stuff were you talking about?
Well, it was the first day one was just basic AI knowledge and customizing and their instructions for ChatGPT. Everything was done on ChatGPT, and then we went through and did a bunch of other stuff. We created a custom GPT for uh, content creation,
Yep.
using a Canva. And then we did another custom GPT for what's that called, honey?
CMAs,
The what?
CMAs,
Oh, the CMA,
market analysis.
market analysis. And they love both of those,
I bet. Yeah. I mean,
So
I would think, I mean, it's really hard to say exactly what to charge, but I mean, I would think if you did a 4-day class like that, I gotta say that's worth, a few $100 minimum.
Mhm.
What did I just do?
For just this agent, you think?
Well, I mean, if you're giving away, are you, if you're, that's, if you're giving away this agent, I mean, to build out an agent like this, it's more of building a workflow. So you're not really giving them an agent, you're giving them a workflow. And that
Right,
workflow is worth, again, depends on what the value it's going to bring to them. It's really hard for me to pick a cost and say, hey, Skeeter, it's worth X number of dollars. But if the workflow that you did, let's say you developed one that, we talked about when you do a listing that saved you 6 hours on every listing that you had come up, then it's what is that real estate professional value their time at? I imagine it's going to be different for different agents, but let's just say make it easy. They value it at $50 an hour because they make 100 grand a year. Okay, and if you save them 4 hours on every listing and they average 10 listings a year, you're going to save them 40 hours times $50. That's 2 grand. I'm going to probably charge them $1,000 a year for that, and then go from there.
right, right. And you're right. It's because some of the stuff we gave them, only two of the six agents, are using it, and some are real. It's kind of a hit and miss because some of them are like, man, I love this stuff, and they're all over it, using it every day, and then some of them are like, I'll just stick with the old school, you know.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, but no, I think you're right. How much are they going to use it? How much time is it going to save them and stuff like that? So appreciate it.
What I have found, Skeeter, is when you can demonstrate with these AI tools like this, when you can demonstrate and get agreement from the user that this is going to save them X amount of time, and therefore that time has X amount of value, you can charge about 30 to 50% of that annually. And
Mhm.
assuming you're being conservative with your estimates, you can do that. Now, if you're saying, hey, it's going to save you 10 hours per listing and every agent values their money at or their time at $200 an hour, you're probably going to be off. But if you can be really conservative with your numbers, I think you're really safe at about 30% of whatever that annual savings is.
Yep. Yep. Okay. No, I love the trainings. Keep them coming.
Awesome.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, we plan to for sure. We got another question about emailing. Does the AI I use email or do I set up each into a CRM? You can. So the short answer is that I don't have any AI emailing on my behalf yet. I'm still in the kind of human in the loop on my emails. I'm not comfortable yet having my agent email for me, but I will be soon. Not to everyone. So I would probably, set parameters like, if somebody really important, like, I don't know, Jonathan emails me, maybe I want to email him back. But, we get tons of emails that are just checking in or whatever, whatever. So what I have it doing right now is I have it drafting my responses for me, and then over time I'll get more comfortable with it. I would probably, if you have a CRM, I'm just a believer in trying to keep everything like I would want to use my CRM for what my CRM is for. So I would, if I could, I'd want to tie my AI agent into my CRM, which you can do. So within your AI agent, so like, in fact, I could share my screen again real quick and I'll show you the section I'm talking about. Let me make sure. And by the way, I do want to acknowledge that I did, and I don't want anyone to fall out of their chair, but I did make an error that I will correct when we hang up. The listing launch skills link does not go to the listing launch skills workbook. I will fix. I can tell you this with 100%. I knew I had made a mistake. I just didn't know where. It's kind of like when you leave for a trip and you're like, I know I forgot something, but you're not going to remember. So I knew that. All right. So within Claude, you have this section here for customize. And this is both where you're going to add your skills, but to get to what we were talking about with CRMs, this is also where you're going to add your connectors. And so you can see that I've connected Canva, I've connected Gmail, I've connected Google Drive, I've connected Notion. And this one here that says QuickBooks True Title is actually a little deceptive. That's a connection to a program called Zapier, which I bet a lot of you have heard of. Zapier is what's called a no code or low code uh, where it connects programs that don't speak to each other natively to one another. So, you may have a setup where when you get an email into your Gmail, it notifies your CRM through Zapier. Well, Zapier has added a functionality where it can also connect your apps to your AI model. And it's what's called an MCP connection. I don't want to get to whatever, but if you're a user of it, basically what I tell you is if you go into connectors, which there are quite a few connectors available natively here in Claude, but if you go through here and you can't find what you're wanting to connect, you can work with Zapier to see if they have a connection. Now, this is where you want to start to be careful. You do want to be mindful about what you're connecting and make sure you're comfortable with the security parameters you're provided. You can, as a general rule of thumb, this is the not a lawyer hat, but as a general rule of thumb, the less you're paying for your AI, the lower your security promises are. So if you're on a free plan, forget about it. But as you start paying, you get a little bit more. And again, everybody needs to kind of get comfortable with what they're comfortable with sharing. But all of that is a very long way for me to say, if I were doing this with my CRM, I would want to connect my CRM so that it could send the emails and keep track of what it's supposed to keep track of. Yeah, hopefully that makes sense. I don't think that was very articulate, but I am who I am, people. What
It's all
else?
good.
What else? Yep, the replay link will be on the resource doc. And you 100% page could, so like with that Gmail connection that I have going, she asked, could you ask it to put emails in draft folders so that you can review first? That is 100% available to you. Um, and then Michael's asking, could we explain what the two kinds of limits mean? Jonathan, do you want to take that one or you want me to talk about that?
Yeah, I'm not sure I
Oh,
answered it right. I tried to do it in the chat, but I might not have. So when you're using Claude in particular, there's actually four different limits that you get. One is what they call a session limit. That's where most people run into issues. That's based on a 5 hour window that they have, and it's how much you've used it in that 5 hours. Then they also have a weekly limit, and they have a monthly limit. No, don't freak out. One thing I like about the fact that Claude has this is they're very transparent about where you stand. No other AI model out there is transparent. You just kind of find out you've run out when you run out, and you're like, oh crap, what am I going to do? So I actually like how transparent they are. They also have, as Clay mentioned, the ability that at any point in time you can give them an extra $20 and you can keep going. And I like that because sometimes I'm in the middle of something and I don't want to stop for 3 hours before I do it. And then the last thing they have is they have a per um, there's three models. So there's Haiku, Sonnet, and Opus. If I couldn't think of it for a minute. So yeah, Haiku, Sonnet, and Opus. And each model has a limit associated with it. So right now, if I looked at my stats, for example, I'm doing really good on my session stats. I'm doing really good on my monthly stats, and I'm a little bit higher on my Sonnet stats because I use Sonnet like almost exclusively for stuff. But you can always move between models if you need to. Again, the part I like about the way they do it is very transparent. I've been shut down temporarily by ChatGPT, by Gemini, by Claude, obviously, but Claude's the only one that's transparent about where you're at. Gemini doesn't do anything. Gemini's literally like, sorry, you've used this model too much. You need to wait 3.5 hours. And that's a real pain when you're talking to it while you're driving on a 6 hour trip and you're 3 hours into the trip and you're like, can I keep going? No, you can't keep going. You're literally just stuck in the mud. You're stopped.
to I want to, so what I'm going to say is my least favorite way to get notified that I'm out of usage is how Perplexity does it, which is with an email that says, thank you for your purchase of 10, 1,000 extra hour or credits. To be fair to Perplexity, they do have a usage meter that is at the top and you can see it. And I also, to be fair to Perplexity, they don't do that unilaterally, meaning they don't force you to sign up to get new usage. I just did that. But on one afternoon, it was like every time I looked at my email, I had another thank you for your purchase. And I had to go turn it off because I was going to run out. So yeah, it's that's one of the things one of the things I'm trying to learn. I think over time, okay, and I'm going to go a little technical, but not too technical because I'm only capable of so much technical. But over time, so what we're talking about really at its core is what's called token usage. You're being charged for token usage, whether that's on your $200 or $100 a month or for Claude, or you're paying $20 for Perplexity plus 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 plus. It's because you're using tokens. Over time, tokens will become cheaper, so we'll get more bang for our buck out of usage. But it's also important for us as we're designing the things that use tokens to think about efficiency. Like, for example, one of the things I've done with Claude Cowork is I was having it update a bunch of spreadsheets for me, and it was taking a long time and it was really chewing up usage. So I said to Cowork, I said, how could we be more efficient? And it said, why don't I write you some Google Apps scripts that will update the spreadsheets and not use any usage? So it's really cool that you can use AI to learn how to more efficiently use AI. So that was a little bit of a sidebar. Um, but yeah, it's I can't even remember what initiated that. So so that was fun. Um, what else? What else do you guys want to know? I feel like this was a lot. Anybody have use cases that they're thinking about that they want to talk through or anything of that nature? I know for, like I said, for me, I'm trying to think about anything in my business that's administrative,
Mhm.
repetitive, and that, kind of occurs in a very similar manner over and over again. But the great thing about AI, automation, it used to have to occur the exact same way every single time. The great thing about AI is it can think dynamically. So I'm starting to broaden my mind as to what's possible. Well, it looks like we've answered all the questions, Jonathan. We must have just done such a tremendous job. I did want to
Well,
share
that or we bored him to death. One of the two. I don't know.
one of the two. I'm gonna err on the side of having done an
I
amazing
like that.
job.
Let's
Let's do
let's be
that.
positive. I like
Let's
that.
do that. So here's what I would ask. If you guys enjoyed, if you all enjoyed this training, we're going to be posting the replay and when we have future trainings, it would be really helpful if you engage with that and say, "Hey, I really enjoyed that training. Here's something I got out of it," something of that nature. That's super helpful for us. Invite your friends to the AI Prompts for Real Estate Professionals group. Our goal is to have the most vibrant, thriving, valuable group of real estate, AI curious real estate professionals. So please, please, please invite your friends to attend. And then the final thing is, I'm going to be out of the country for the next effectively 2 weeks. I'm batching a bunch of content to put into the group, including, where I was going with this, we're not going to have a Facebook Live or a live training for the next 2 weeks, but I do have some trainings that I'm going to post. And so please continue to engage in the group. If you don't get a response from me as quickly as usual, don't call the police. I am enjoying myself on a boat. So,
Okay, I'm going to try to cover, but Clay will tell you I will do a miserable job of that. But I'll definitely be in there trying to manage it. Well, Clay's out floating in the
the
there's got to be a
Mediterranean,
good cart.
baby.
There's got to be a good cartoon we can put together of that. I can just see
Oh,
the sun shining off the bald head. Sitting in an
I
inner
don't want to
tube.
give too much away, but I got a whole content series coming while I'm gone.
Ooh, all right. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it.
Yeah, there's a tease for you. Okay. Awesome. Well, thanks, Jonathan. As always, we really, really
Thank you,
appreciate
Clay.
you.
Great job.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone. I'll stick around while we're closing out. The replay will be up shortly. And for everyone that's pointed out the issues in the replay document, it's Jonathan's fault, even though he hasn't
It
even
is
touched it
100%.
or seen it. I did. Fine. I did it. I'll fix it. Okay. But thank you, everyone. Appreciate you so much.
Thanks, everybody.